Up. We are up on our Saturday show. Your vote, your voice is very important. This is it. This is it. 2021 election. The decision is yours. Everything is in your hands. Let's make the right one. Yes. We appreciate everybody come back in Binto Media Network. We are here. I am here with my special guest. A guest that I do not take for granted. The services he offered to us for free. I always tell him, my boss, we need that free service again. Yes. Our brother is up there, Melville, Robertson, Roberts. Mel is here to how do you call it? To differentiate, to give us that law, to tell us what the Constitution said, what the Electoral Commission Act said. So we have some questions. Please, when you are following us, share our information. It's very important. It's relevant. It's not about a political party necessarily. It's about the Constitution, the laws, the election, purely. That's it. My partner in crime is up there, Dabakh Malick, is judge. Thank you, brother, for joining us again. You never miss out. You always come with the little opinion you have, and it helps. We are not taking it for any granted. We don't take it for granted. Our boss is right there. That's Jaye Jallow. Jaye is on the ground.
You are the boss.
Jaye is on the ground for us. This election is so important and it's so necessary to have the report from the ground directly. We don't want to quote from somebody's page. We do not want to say, well, this is what they said and make a serious mistake. We cannot afford that. So that's why Jaye is here and he brings the right information to us. So I will let you guys join Mel and Dabakh. Jaye is here. Thank you all.
Okay.
Good day, brothers.
Good day to you.
Right. I'm coming. First of all, I would say, Mel, you are welcome once again. We missed you. We missed to have you here. So let me confess first. Yes, we missed to have you. You are welcome to our show. Usually, this is not the time we do our shows, especially on a Saturday. But this election is so important that we want to offer a little bit more service. Saturdays, we call our show Your Vote, Your Voice. You are welcome. You can say hello to our community.
Yeah, hello, everyone. As usual, I'm glad to be here, joining your very phenomenal panelist and co-host, Dabakh and Jaye, and of course yourself. I'm a very small fish in a very large pond with all these big fishes around me, but I hope I'll be able to manage and get my way through. So I look forward to the program. I hope it's going to be a teaching and a learning moment for me and for everyone that's part of it. So I'm happy to be here.
Okay, thank you. Dabakh, you are welcome.
Yeah, okay. Assalamu alaikum. It's another Saturday, another program, and I am always happy and committed to be back. But before I go further, when situations like this happen in the Gambia, my mind always goes back to a brother who has just left us not long ago, and that is Pandere. And I think Gambia owes it to him that we remember him, we celebrate him, and then we pray for him wherever he is right now. God grants him Jannatul Firdaus, but also forgive all his shortcomings that he has on earth, while also place his hand on his family. And I think it's one person that has given his all to Gambia when Gambia needed him most. And I think it's important that wherever Gambians are, we remember him, not only him, but also in prayers, but also we remember his family, especially his kids. I think it's very much important.
Let me go back to Mel. Mel, before I go to Jaye, you can talk about a little about Pandere.
Yes, I quite agree with Dabakh. It's been a very emotional week. I got to know Panderi, and we kind of, had a relationship. We developed a friendship based on mutual respect for each other. I've been on his show numerous times. He's invited me to be on his show as a panelist. He's interviewed me. We've had very, very heated and passionate debate. But one thing is always clear: he respects the opinion of everyone. And as far as I'm concerned, and I've always said this, and I'm glad I said this to him when he was alive, that every country on earth needs a Panderi to keep it in check. So like Dabakh said, like a day like today or yesterday, with all that is going on, he would have been on his elements in the radio. His newspaper would have been burning, with articles and editorials, basically. But, as usual in life, we don't know the next minute what's going to happen, and God has his own plan. And I think he has done his part for Gambia, for country, and the legacy that he left will serve eternity. There's no way you can talk about Gambia's history without referring to Panderi. And one thing I can tell you about Panderi, based on my own understanding of the person he was, just my last conversation with him was around the 11th of November. And I sent him a message to say to him that, I wanted to do a contribution to his program. And then he said to me, and I'll share his response with you later on after the show. And then he responded and said to me, because what happened was, this was around the time, the very, moment when there was this issue with Fatoumata Jahumpa Cissé and Mama Fatima Singate. And I had just written an article which he published. So he said to me, in a very joking way, he said to me, Mr. Robert said, I know you. So now you want to contribute because I just published an article on your friend. No, I will pass on the contribution. So I laughed. I said to him, no, that's not the reason why. And he said to me, no, some other time, but not just when I just publish your article. And that tells you the type of person he was. He loved his job, and he was very honest and sincere with whatever he was doing, regardless of how bad it is. Sometimes we agree with him, sometimes we disagreed with him, but Pa is the only person that I know that you would cuss him out in an article and he would still publish it. He respects the views of others. He would keep going and going. And sometimes, like Dabakh said, he's infallible. He's human, and so he's bound to make mistakes. You understand? He's not infallible. Correction. That's what I wanted to say. He's human, and he's bound to make mistakes. And I'm sure he has made his own mistakes. But the fact remains, substantively, he has contributed so much to our discourse, so much to civic awareness. As far as I'm concerned, PA is the first TRRC, unofficial TRRC. Most of the things that were going on in TRRC, we already had it in PA's radio. He's written about it. So, like Dabakh said, I'm just praying that his soul will rest in perfect peace. I pray that God will continue to grant his soul a sweet repose, and God will be with his family, guide his family, his wife and kids, wherever they're doing. And in the final analysis, he has left a legacy, and he will forever be remembered in the annals of Gambia's history.
Thank you. Jaye? Oh, hold on. Let me unmute Jaye. Jaye?
Yes, Binta, thank you so much. Of course, in the Gambia, of course, we are in the evening, one could say 6:15. So good evening to you, my boss, and of course, panel of bosses here. Of course, I am ready to learn from Mr. Roberts. What he said is quite obvious and it's true. And of course, from Dabakh, I miss you, my brother. And of course, I miss those factual analysis, of course. And I just want to contribute a little with regards to Panderi Mbaye, who was a very, very, very important person in this country. Gambians will miss him. The entire globe, the entire world will have to miss Pa. The journalist per se, he was a very, very, very credible journalist. He knew what he was doing, and he was fearless. Pa never feared anyone, irrespective of who you are. Whenever a story happens or whenever something happens, Pa always have to report things realistically, irrespective of who is involved. Even if it has to be the president, even if it has to be who, Pa will always be the one to, of course, break those things. And of course, why I agree with Mr. Roberts, what he said, It's true. Pa was TRRC well before the official execution or the official establishment of that TRRC, because Pa was giving out things that no one imagined they were happening in the country. By that time, it was the media was censored. It was not easy to get access, even information, talk less of to give them out. If you are in the Gambia, it was going to be, of course, very, very difficult and horrible situations for journalists living in the country by then. So, Pa has did his part. He did everything that he could have done for the country. He did everything he could have done for the, of course, for the journalists in the country, because this is what we expect from a journalist. You report the fact. In reporting the fact, and you get your ground, you know what you are doing, you know what you are reporting is a fact. You don't have to fear anybody. That is your work. So you have to be brave enough in your work, and of course you have to be ethical. Powers that kind of a journalist who will tell you the fact irrespective of how you see him. He wouldn't mind how you see him, but what he mind is the Gambian people that needs to know what is going on. They will access the information. So on that note, Pa, I am sure we will not be able to say more about him because we are young in the journalism, and he have been here in the Gambia. He have been in abroad, of course, doing his journalistic work. So the only thing we can say is to pray for him. May God the Almighty have mercy on his soul, and of course, he left family behind. We are also praying for the family, at least that he left behind. It's a sad day for the Gambia. It's a sad day for each and everyone who is connected to pandering by one way or directly or indirectly. Even people who have never set their eye on Pan are feeling the situation right now in the Gambia. So these have shown how much important he was, because all these political leaders, almost 98% of them, have shown at least their sympathy to Pa. Of course, have sent their condolences to the family of Pa and other stuff. These have shown how much he did in the Gambia. Unfortunately, he's not in the Gambia. If he was here, I am sure he would have been honored by the head of state. But unfortunately, yeah, so that's it.
Thank you. All I can say about Pa is he brought me home. He brought me back to Gambia. And I wasn't the only person, because many Gambians travel for so many years and they forgot about home. All they do is deal with their families, but nothing nationally we pay attention to. So I have nothing much to say about Pa, but that deep sadness in me, I just send my sincere condolences to the family. I had an interview with Pa. I am from Kombo Faraba Bantang. Everybody knew what happened on the 18th of July. When this thing was happening in Faraba, the issue was happening. Pa was one of the people that was reporting, calling the Gambian people, y'all need to pay attention to Faraba. Something is happening there. If this thing continue happening, we will lose lives. And that's what exactly happened. And I had my moment with him when we had the interview. And there's nothing else I can say about Pa. We just pray for the family, the wife and the kids and the entire family. May his soul rest in peace. He will never be forgotten. Yes, online media, he's the first, and he will never be forgotten. Yes. All right. Thank you all very much. We will move on with our discussion today. I will say hello to everyone here. I am here with Dabakh Malick as the Concern Gambian. Jaye is here. He's our reporter. And our special guest is here. Yes. Mel is in the building. First of all, we're going to talk about Mel. We're going to talk about, as a lawyer, what are your views about the electoral laws? First, that's what we want to know.
What are my views? My views as in what exactly? What do you mean my views? What exactly?
In terms of the requirements for a candidate to be qualified. Let's say their education, the 5,000 signatures, the dual citizenship. Those are some of the requirements that some of the Gambians will say, when you say 5,000 signatures had lead us today to the courts. So we'll get to that. So some of the requirements that I just mentioned, what are your views on those?
I think they're very okay. I think it is what would be obtained anywhere else.
Okay.
I don't think they're very stringent requirements that cannot be met. I mean, you can tell that we had about 20 something odd candidates, and if you look at the basis of rejection of some of their nomination forms and things, you would realize that it wasn't that substantive. It wasn't as if they hadn't met most of the criteria set out in the Elections Act. Most of it was more to do with form than substance, really, if you look at it. I mean, having signatures, people who signed twice, having people not filling out the required forms properly. And as a lawyer, you know that these are things that happen, every day in court. People lose cases because they don't follow procedure. That's why you have, in criminal law, you have the criminal procedure code that guides everything that has to do with criminal matters. In civil law, you have civil procedure that guides. So law is very concerned with form. So most of the rejection were actually based on those things. So I don't think there's anything wrong with the criteria. I think it is very basic criteria that, in fact, I would call for more stringent laws when it comes to people who are qualified to run as president. I think it has been made so cheap and so easy, and that is why we have attracted all sorts and manner of persons wanting to run for the highest office in the land. So I would even advocate and go forward and say that we should have more stringent requirements for people to qualify to run for office. When it comes to the issue of dual citizenship, I am very, very much in support that if you're running for the highest office of the land, I don't think it makes logical sense for somebody to hold the citizenship of another country whilst running the highest office of a particular not a sovereign nation. I think that is just right. It is just apt that if you have decided that you want to run for office, you should be able to forgo the citizenship of another country and owe absolute, undiluted, and unflinching allegiance to the country that you're running for. It just makes perfect sense. It is obtained everywhere else. Well, I can't say everywhere else, but most other progressive nations that I know have a similar law. So I just think that is quite apt, and I think that's what it is. So basically, it is not that the electoral laws do not need reform. I think that this was why we were having all these calls for reforms. But what I have a problem with is most of the players, most of the actors that are now complaining about these electoral laws knew from way back as 5 years ago what the laws were. I mean, and it tells you the level of preparedness with some of these individuals, because if you're ready and you have a focus, you have a direction, it is winning an election doesn't happen 1 week to an election. It is something you plan for. It is something you look at. It is something you study. It is a project. And I think some of these very laws that are now coming back to haunt these some of these presidential, aspirants were there way before, but nobody called them into question. Nobody did anything. I mean, there's a particular candidate. I mean, I don't like calling names, but I mean, he was cabinet minister, for crying out loud, when this new dispensation came into play. I mean, we saw how the first business of government was to amend the age limit. I mean, but you had all these laws that were there that are now coming to bite them, that are now coming to haunt them. But at the time, it was not seen as a priority. At the time, nobody cared. And those laws, the very laws that nobody cared about, is what is coming now to haunt them. So, to be honest, yes, the law needs reform, but I'm sorry, it is not 6 or 9 days or a week to an election that you start calling for reforms of an electoral act. It is impossible. It doesn't make sense, and I think it's just a lot of noise. And I don't think it is being done in good faith, because if it was done in good faith, or was meant to be done in good faith, there was ample time to bring these things into the forefront and not wait until a week before elections, or not wait until the very laws, actually you're caught by those very provisions, and then you start making noise about it. I don't believe in that, and that is my position.
When it comes to the education, they say high school graduate. Do some citizens like us, not me necessarily, because I don't have the education anyway, but some will say, well, at least we can go to another level. Let's say from high school, maybe associate degree or bachelor's degree before you become a president. What do you say to when it comes to education level?
Well, first and foremost, you have to understand that laws are not legislated from the sky. Laws are legislated premised on something, premised on a situation, premised on a circumstance, premised on a certain reality at the particular time. Now, yes, we do have a university now. Yes, we're producing a lot of graduates, but at the time that this law was legislated, at the time that this law came into being, what was the statistical average of educated Gambians that had the qualifications beyond a high school diploma? At the time that these laws came into effect, who was the president of the day? Did he possess at that time a postgraduate degree or diploma or anything? No. At the time, he only had his O-levels from Gambia High School certificate, and I'm talking about the former President Jammeh. So people have to understand the spirit behind laws. The laws didn't come about today or yesterday. So and again, this is why we're calling that, yes, there has to be reformation of the laws, because laws are not static. Laws live, they evolve with the times and realities of the present day. So yes, I agree that we should go like a notch higher, a little bit higher, but we also have to understand where this law was premised on at the time it was legislated, at the time it came into being.
Okay. The 10,000, there's the political parties, before they register their parties, they require 10,000 signatures. And when they submit that, Jaye, if you let me, Jaye, what are the requirements first? Let me make sure. The requirements for a political party to register before we move on.
Yeah, thank you so much, Binta, once more. And of course, thank you so my brother as well, of course, Melville. First of all, the first thing you have to do to register your own political party, you have to pick a form from the Independent Electoral Commission, that is from the IEC as well, which is at the main office in Carnifing. That's the first step you have to do. Upon doing that, then you have to, of course, the application form, upon filling the form, it have to go with declaration, asset declaration. It should be part of it as well. In that same form, you have to attach 10,000 registered voters, their signatures in that form. That is part of the requirement. In that 10,000 registered voters, we have 7 administrative areas in the country. At least 200 from each of these 7 administrative areas is a requirement. And the other thing is a prescribed registration fee of $1 million. And of course, that one also you have to, is part of the requirement. You have to get $1 million is part of it that you have to submit to the IEC. Then the constitution of the party must be enclosed with the application. You must give them your constitution when registering the party. Your party's constitution needs to be there, not the Gambian Gambian constitution. The principal objective of the party contest. What is your principal objective? It has to be indicated that you are registering a political party to contest for presidential election. So that is also a principle as part of the requirement from IEC. The party should have a national character and should show and should not be formed on section. Politically, it should not be politically motivated. It should not be on religion. It should not be on on ethnicity or regional basis. It has to be clear. All these things are part of it.
Okay. So thank you, Mel. So those are the 10,000 votes they should get from 7 administrative areas.
From the different 7 administrative regions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So when they come back again, shouldn't they use that 10,000 to register their candidate? But
No.
this 5,000 that they went to, like a scavenger hunt, especially in Banjul. Okay, go ahead.
No, I do not agree, because the two are not the same. If you listen rightly, and I stand to be corrected, he's telling you about requirements for registering a political party. Am I right, sir?
Yes.
Exactly.
Mr. Jallow, am I right?
Yeah.
Now, that is radically different from actually the requirement for nominations to run as a presidential candidate. The two are not the same.
Okay.
I can register a political party in 2021. In 2025, that I'm ready, or 2026 that I'm ready to run for office, probably 25% of the people or the individuals that opted, registered, or elected me are either dead, have traveled abroad, do not have a voter's card, have now turned or have a different political leaning. Now, when it comes to nomination, it is actually different. In fact, political parties are not manned by just one individual. So as you can see, you have political parties that at the start of the registration of the political party had a different secretary general and head of the party from what we have now in 2021. You cannot decide to put whoever it is or individuals that nominated a particular political party in a box and not allow them to execute or exercise their fundamental human rights in 2021 simply because they signed for and accepted and endorsed a coming into being of a particular political party. So I do not believe the two are the same. So if you look at it, to register a political party, the requirement is even higher than nomination. So nomination, it's like 50% of the actual signatures, number of signatures that they require to register a political party. So I think two of them are not the same, and I don't think anybody should be shortchanged or shortcharged just simply because that they had actually endorsed a particular political party at the time.
Okay. So the other requirement that I want
Mr. Jallow wanted to say something. I think probably I must have said something wrong.
Go ahead, Jallow.
Yes, I just want to emphasize what he said is the fact, because if you look at Tabora Mane, of course, Mane is someone who was a victim of just rightly what Mr. Roberts is just saying, because he already got the 10,000 voters registered when he wanted to form his political party. But upon nomination, when he wanted to use those same people for nomination, because he was at the process, he was in the process, he did not finish all the requirements at that time, completed all the requirements to form a political party. Then when he went to the IEC shortly before nomination, in fact, it brought a little push and pull between him and IEC. He was told that the signatures or the signatories you had in your form for the 10,000 is the other voters card. We are now giving new voters card. It means you have to go back and of course provide us with new 10,000 registered voters. So what Mr. Roberts is saying is the fact. If you come to, in actual sense, that's the fact. Because if you want to use the one that you used before, and now it is been changed to the new one, it is not part of the requirement anymore. So registering a political party, there are certain things that are in common, like registering 5,000 voters, 200 from each of the 7 administrative areas that have stand in the nomination as well. And it's a requirement in forming a political party in the country. So if you come to the nomination, it's indicated as well. But there are certain things that he made mention that they are factual indeed.
Yeah, there's another thing you mentioned. You said that the party, they pay $1 million to register. But Mel, the independent candidates, they do not have any responsibility. They don't pay the 1 million. We also think that's not fair. That 1 million, they just come and pay 10,000, boom, you know.
Yes, to a large extent, I agree. I do not quite know the rationale for this. I don't quite, to be honest, I don't. The only sort of conclusion that I have come to, and this is not even law, it's just logic. Mr. Jallow, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think the independent candidates can put up nominations for local government elections, parliamentary elections. They can't put up candidates to run for mayoral positions and things like that. I think this is only and squarely limited to political parties. So you could tell that. So this is what I see as probably the reason or the rationale for having a higher amount of deposit for the registered political parties and not for the independent candidates. But I tend to agree that the disproportion, in numbers, well, I can't call it disproportion, but the what's the right word to use? The vast difference in what is required, as in $1 million here as opposed to $10,000 here, is it's too wide. And I think that has to be looked into. But again, the fact remains, as long as the law is not amended, it is not repealed, it is still the law.
It's a law. Okay, Dabakh, come on in. Dabakh?
Yes.
Come on in. You heard us. Go ahead.
I think this whole
the requirements, yes.
Yeah, I think this whole issue could have been avoided if the members of the coalition government were really serious and they had the same intentions that brought them together and wanted to fulfill that commitment that they took in the presence of all Gambians. And that was the greater reason why those who voted for them in 2016. Well, what happens is, because if we have to talk about these issues, we have to look at what brought us to this point. What brought us to this point was, this is a group of people who came together with the sole intention of removing one individual, but at the end of the day, all of them have their hidden intentions of participating in elections or building up their political base or reaffirming their commitment to stand with their political parties. And that is what disintegrated the coalition government. So when the coalition government was disintegrated, instead of focusing on all the reforms that they promised people, they were more busy politicking and preparing themselves for 2021, but also the subsequent local government elections and parliamentary elections that came after in 2017. And I am not going to point finger to anyone, but I think it's a collective responsibility that they have to soldier on and they have to take it upon themselves, because like Mel said, some of them are lawyers, some of them have been in cabinet. So they cannot say they didn't know. Some of them have been participating in elections, in previous elections before 2016. So they actually knew what the law says and what are the conditions if anyone wants to run for office. So I think sometimes it's just like a wrestler going to the wrestle ground, knowing that you're not going to perform or you will lose, and then looking for excuses so that tomorrow when you lose, you have something to hang on, as a point of why you lost. But I think what needs to be done is, after this election, I think they need to come together, and then especially the inter-party committee, and then sit down and then look at these things. Because the reason why the electoral reform should have been a priority for the coalition government was, you had people who came out and demonstrated requesting for electoral reform, people like Solo Sandang, and that is the cause of his death. And I think it was important that for them to remember his memory, to pay respect to his memory, and remember his legacy. It would have been important if the coalition government had amended the electoral act and even named it after Solo Sandang. That I think would have been far better. But like I said, like the Olaf will say, Harba Jambi Romba Paranga Dursi, the shadow of the snake is just a waste of time. I think most of this noise that they are making could have been done in 2016, because what interested them most, we have seen it, and those were done, like the age limit, like amending the law that bars parliamentarians if they are fired from their political parties. Those were the things that interested them, and they have made those amendments. And I think what this does is, it brought us back to when we have conversations that would definitely affect every Gambian. I think it's important that we put aside our individual interests and party interests and focus more on the national issue. And I think a lot of these things could have been avoided, because when we spoke about, trying to bring in a new constitution, I could fully remember Halifa said this in Parliament, we could save money, but we can also save time if we amend the 1997 constitution. And I think it would have been better. It would have been, by now, most of these things would have been in the past. But like I said, politicians will always be politicians and they will always play politics, which I understand. But I think there are certain issues. It's beyond politics. It's beyond the political rhetorics. We have to look at the interests of the nation, because when laws are made, laws are not made to serve one individual. Laws are not made to serve a group. Laws are made to serve every Gambian and non-Gambian resident in the Gambia. So that is why it is important that when we do some of these things, we look at the greater good for everybody in the next 100 years to come, but not just creating laws that whenever we have a change of government or a change of a presidency, a lot of amendments would be happening. So I think to avoid these things, I hope it's a lesson learned, not only by the politicians, but also Gambians, because I think sometimes also we are clouded by our political sentiments, that we focus more on what benefits our party leader and our party than what is going to benefit us as citizens, because politicians will be politicians. But us as citizens, there are certain things that we try to defend today. Tomorrow it may go against us, and we will be the same people who will come out and want to cry foul of the situation that we knew was happening before, but we defended it. So what I see in Gambia is like, if it favors me, I stand with it. Anytime the law turns against me, I cry foul, I call it a bad law. And it's very embarrassing and very disappointing, even when I see educated people stand out there and be calling it Jammeh Constitution. The Constitution doesn't belong to Yaya Jammeh. Yaya Jammeh is no more, but the Constitution still exists. The Constitution belongs to Gambia. And let's not forget, this 1997 Constitution came into act through a referendum that majority of Gambians voted in for. Even whereas the amendments that happened in it, these amendments were done by parliamentarians who are representatives of the people. So the Constitution cannot be a Jammeh Constitution. It's the Constitution of the Republic of the Gambia, whether we like it or not. So if we want to change it, it becomes a collective responsibility for all of us to come together and then make the amendments. But like I said, politicians will always say things that they think will give them votes or will put them in the good sides of, the ordinary voters, who most of the times are the end losers of all this political bickering that is going on. Because a lot of these people who are talking about these things today, come 2021, they win elections. I can bet and tell you, a lot of the laws that are there, they will definitely be very reluctant to change it because it favors them.
Okay, thank you. Mel, go ahead. You hear what Dabakh was saying before we move on to our next question. Okay, that's it. Okay. Jaye? Okay. Mel, we heard Dr. Cisse. Dr. Cisse had an interview, and he was talking about how political parties register and they establish their offices, the requirement, they meet the requirements. And to maintain a political party, it's not easy for 5 years, for election to election. But independent candidates, they come and just go boom, 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 and they run for office. Is that fair to the independent, to the political parties?
But I do not understand that type of question, because registering a political party and or going the independent route is not by force. It is not forced on anybody. Okay. So if you feel registering a political party is very stringent, you would opt for registering as an independent. Right. We saw SFR, who, when they asked him why didn't you register a political party, he said he'd rather go the independent route. So I don't think that's an argument that holds water, to be honest. I mean, really, there's nothing I can comment on that. If he did not have a choice, or individuals did not have a choice, I do agree that some of the requirements for an independent candidate are too easy. They're too light. It needs to be taken another level at least. But to be honest, the choice is there. So you can't call that as being unfair. Okay. Because the choice is there. You can either explore or choose not to explore. You can take a different route. So again, it just takes me back to what I've said. I mean, it's more or less the same thing, that yes, the laws need reformation, but as we are right now, 1 week to an election, calling out these things, to me, it's a non-starter. There's no basis for it. You know, I think now is not the time. I think really it is not the time to do that now. Yes, the laws need to be reformed. There is improvement that's needed in the laws, like any other law, like any other area in our, in our governance system, in our governance structure. But I don't see the value. I don't know if your other panelists see it different from me. I don't see the value for calling out these things, 1 week to an election. I think these are things that Dr. Cisse should have called out ages ago whilst campaigning. She could have flagged these things. In fact, that could have been one of the bases for him running for office, to ensure that laws such as this are no more, and the laws that govern our elections are very progressive, are very fair, and are very equitable.
Okay. Jaye. Okay. Jaye is gone. Dabakh.
Yes.
What Dr. Cisse said, it does not seem fair. What do you have for that?
No, I totally disagree with Doctor, because this is just normal. Everybody has a choice. It's just like me as a Gambian. I have a choice to join a political party. I have a choice not to join a political party. And I made the choice not to be a member of any political party because that's my right. That's what the Constitution guarantees me. But if I decide to go and join a political party, I have to live with the dictates and that governs the party. So I cannot just get into the party and then tomorrow I said, no, this party, this. If I want to make changes, I have to do it internally. And there is a platform for me to do that. But I think what they need to understand is, if you set up a political party, it's an association, a collective association of members who comes together and have an ideology to create a movement. Yes. It's just like when you go to the register of companies. If you want to register a sole trader and a limited liability company, the cost of registering a limited liability company is more expensive. The cost of registering a partnership business is more, but that is global. That is just normal. I think it now becomes a choice of, should I go the independent route or should I register a political party? And I think, to tell you the truth, looking at the sub-region, I think Gambia's elections or registration of parties requirement is very cheap. In Senegal, for you to run for presidency, you have to deposit $6 million. You understand? So talk less of establishing a party. So I think sometimes it's important that we do research across the sub-region, because usually we compare Gambia with other countries within the sub-region. But I think the requirement for us in Gambia is really something that is very easy to meet.
Yeah.
But like I said, the politicians will always look for excuses to. But like Melvin said, I don't think this is the right time for them to talk about this. But they have the inter-party. They also have the inter-party where all these things could be tabled there for them to discuss about it. But what is more important is, the reason why I think some of these discussions are too late and it's very unnecessary is because we are going towards elections, and we know how elections are in Africa, and it's a high-stake election. So I think we all need to focus on what is gonna bring in a peaceful elections, and then after elections we can come together as a country and look at the things that we think ought to be changed, and then we can make changes, because laws are not permanent. These are man-made laws. These laws are made by us. If we decide as a collective that we need to change them, we can go through that route. But not because it doesn't favor you. It's a necessity for others to change it. But I think it has to be of the majority, and there is a route that needs to be followed, and I think everybody needs to go through that route.
Okay, Jaye.
Yes.
Jaye, the political parties that went to court, take us through that.
Yeah, thank you so much. Of course, I would restrict it to two, because so far so good. There are two, of course, productive results that came out from the High Court. First was Dr. Ismaila Cisse, who happened to won his case. Of course, he won the case against IEC, Independent Electoral Commission. Earlier on, IEC pronounced that Mr. Sisi did not meet the requirement for the 200 on the side of Banjul administrative area, in which he challenged. Of course, he wrote a petition to the IEC, of course, to challenge that decision that he and his party sent more than even 250, of course, voter signatories to the IEC. So it had to be, because the very day it happened, he was on the social media to calm his party militants and sympathizers. Then it happened to take him 1 day or two. He filed in the petition, and he, of course, he summoned the IEC
to the courts. And they won their case. GMC won and the CA won. Mel, did IEC
case?
Yeah. Jai?
Yeah, and the one and yes.
Your connection is not good. Mel, did the IEC follow the due process in rejecting this CA and GMC?
Okay. This is very technical. Technical in the sense that there is a subsisting judgment of the High Court stating that IEC did not follow procedures as stipulated in the Elections Act. Until this judgment is appealed upon and set aside, that is what has been held. Now, as per the judgment, and I tend to agree with the judgment, the Elections Act stipulates and says that if, for example, as in the case of CA and GMC and any other political party that is affected, that if they do not meet the particular requirement, the IEC should avail an opportunity for them to bring forth new forms or amended forms to make up for the differences. Now, after this has taken place, if the IEC now decides to reject the nomination based on their procedural laws, then you cannot fault them for that. But what substantively the judgment stated is the fact that IEC was not in compliance with that particular section of the Elections Act. And therefore, the judgment was for the IEC, it was an order from the court for the IEC to comply with the particular provisions in the Elections Act and allow CA to submit fresh nomination form. So in all honesty and sincerity, with that particular issue, IEC did not follow the law, but that is what it is.
Okay.
But there is something fundamentally wrong in that what is being told to Gambians and what Gambians seem to understand with respect to that judgment is not right. Now, the judgment, and I don't know if Jay has the judgment, because if he has the judgment, I would have loved for him to put it on the screen for your viewers to see. But I will attempt to read that particular provision.
Please read.
In the judgment.
He don't have good connection. Jay don't have good connection. Go ahead, please read. Go ahead, please.
I'll read what the judgment said. It reads, and I quote, "The final analysis, I hereby grant the following release. It is declared that the respondent, in this case the IEC, failed to comply with the provisions and spirit of the Elections Act, Cap 301, Laws of the Gambia, in the procedure it adopted in the rejection of the nomination of the first applicant as the presidential candidate of the second applicant in the 2021 presidential elections of the Republic of the Gambia, scheduled for the 4th day of December 2021. So let's deal with that. What the judgment is saying, and what the learned, the Lord Justice is saying here, is that, and which was what I already stated, that when it comes to this particular issue, the IEC failed to comply with the provisions and spirit of the Elections Act. In that the way they rejected the nomination was not in the spirit of the Elections Act. What it's basically saying is IEC don't have that very large scope to reject a particular candidate. The rejection has to be based on what is already stipulated regulations, stipulated laws within the Elections Act. So for that particular purpose, and to one which I wholeheartedly agree, the IEC did not follow procedure and did not comply when it comes to this particular issue. I don't know if I'm very clear with that.
Yes.
I want to move on to the next.
Go ahead.
The second paragraph reads, and I quote, "It is hereby declared that the rejection of the first applicant's nomination as the presidential candidate of the second applicant in these circumstances is null, void, and of no effect for being in violation." I want you to pay a particular attention to this. I'm going to go back. "It is also hereby declared that the rejection of the first applicant's nomination as the presidential candidate of the second applicant in the circumstance, not any other circumstance, in this particular circumstance, is null and void and of no effect for being in violation of the provisions and spirit of the Elections Act, and therefore tantamount to the denial of the first applicant's constitutional right to contest the 2021 presidential election as guaranteed under Section 26 of the 1997 Constitution." What the judgment is simply saying, basically, is that the rejection, which we have already agreed that IEC did not follow the particular procedure in rejection. So therefore, because IEC did not follow that particular regulation, they did not follow that particular procedure. Therefore, that particular rejection is null and void. Therefore, it is of no legal effect. So therefore, what it simply means is that in the face of the law, with this particular issue, IEC, the CA is not a rejected candidate for nomination. Is that very clear?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I want to go to the third paragraph. It is ordered that the applicant are entitled to. This is the substantive issue of this matter, which a lot of people are being misconstrued. And I want you to pay particular attention to this. It says it is ordered that the applicant are entitled to submit an additional list of names and signatures of registered voters for the Banjul administrative area, having regard to the fact that the first applicant only had notice of the rejection of his nomination, contrary to the spirit of Section 47(3) of the Elections Act Cap 301, which invariably amounts to a denial of his right to deliver a fresh nomination paper and or cure any defect in his nomination form, which is in consonance with all known rules of fairness, equity, and natural justice as envisaged in Section 47(3) of the Elections Act. Yeah? So basically, what this particular paragraph is saying in this particular judgment is that the applicants, first we have established what the judgment did, is it established firstly that the IEC were wrong in the rejection. That's the first thing that it established. Because it stated that the IEC did not follow particular procedure. Yeah? Then it established that if the IEC did not follow particular procedure as held by the court, then it means that the rejection is null and void. It is of no effect. So it means that IEC ordinarily, in the sense of the law, in the eyes of the law, is not and has not been rejected. Yeah? We've established those two. Now, what this is now saying is that if the first applicant had rejected the respondent rejected the first applicant, what it did is that it did not allow the first applicant to tender in fresh nominations form as prescribed by the Elections Act. And this the court held amounts to a denial of his right to participate in the elections. And this is his fundamental right as enshrined in the Constitution. Okay? Now, and listen to this part. It says, it is hereby directed that the applicant be permitted to submit the additional list of names of registered voters for the Banjul Administrative Area in brackets Exhibit IC7 to the returning officer. Pay particular attention to this. To the returning officer, who shall first be at liberty to satisfy himself or herself that all constitutional and other legal requirements have been met in accordance with Section 46 of the Act. Now, the most interesting thing about this judgment is that the Lord Justice, the learned judge, has already established that IEC made an error, that IEC should not have rejected Dr. Cisse, that the rejection of Dr. Cisse is now null and void, that the rejection of Dr. Cisse, not allowing him to present fresh nomination papers, is null and void and of no legal effect. But then the judgment went on to say that Dr. Cisse should be allowed to submit the amended nomination list, which is marked Exhibit IC7. And I want you to pay particular attention to this. The judgment did not say that Dr. Cisse is allowed to submit fresh nomination list. The fresh nomination list, the amended nomination list that Dr. Cisse should submit as part of the judgment is limited to Exhibit IC7. I don't know if I'm making sense. The judgment says, because what happened is in the hearing.
Mel, hold on. Dr. Cisse said he have those signatures, but they refused to collect them.
No, in the judgment, in the proceedings, Dr. Cisse tendered an exhibit. I will read the judgment again. It says, hang on, let me read it out for you again. It says, it is hereby directed that the applicant be permitted to submit the additional list of names and signatures of registered voters for the Banjul Administrative Area, Exhibit IC7. This is what they tendered in the proceedings. And this is what the judge has now said, that they should go back to the IEC and tender this.
Yes.
What CA did was to go and tender fresh nominations form, not the Exhibit IC7. And that is a violation. It is a violation of the judgment, because the judgment stated that CA should submit this particular form that they have exhibited, ICJ. That is what the judgment said. So what CA should have done is that CA should have submitted the additional list that was exhibited in the course of the proceedings, that is already marked Exhibit ICJ, to the returning officer, for the returning officer to satisfy himself.
But what
is more, what I want also for you to understand is that the judge in her judgment clearly showed that the courts do not have the right to declare Dr. Cisse or Maifati or any other candidate as a presidential candidate running for election. Only the returning officer has that power. And if you look at the judgment, it says CA
should submit that form and satisfy the returning officer. So what this means, the government has sent it back to the court, to the IEC. So Dr. Cisse can submit the forms, but the IEC returning officer can still say that it does not satisfy the requirement as per law.
Oh, okay. So we see.
So there is no judgment in any court that has declared that Dr. Cisse or my party or any other candidate must be on the ballot box. The courts don't have the power to do that. What the judgment stated is that it should go back to the IEC. The IEC should accept the amended list as presented in court, marked Exhibit IC7, and therefore, then the IEC can satisfy themselves or the returning officer that yes, Dr. Cisse has met the requirements and now would be allowed to be on the ballot box, or as the law permits, he has not met the requirements. And what happened was when CA submitted the form that was not marked Exhibit ICJ, the IEC rejected that form on the basis that it was in contempt of the judgment of the High Court.
Whoa. Okay, I will not. Okay, Jaye. Jaye, we hear that. You hear that?
Exactly. I heard my brother very well indeed. A very, very good analysis of exactly what has happened. And this is law, and this is exactly how things unfold. If you read from my party's own page right away, he said we made a decision as GMC for the country as stated publicly. GMC does not and will not rely on any other political group for on other stuff. But then I will get back to that in regards to what my party said. What my brother just elaborated is a point that has is a point that is not being understood by a lot of people, because when this happened from the very onset, a lot of people had the conviction that look, the court has made their ruling that these two candidates are eligible. They can now contest elections, until people were saying, look, it is too short for them to contest elections. Is it possible? But then again, in that same context, there are still people who understood what the court ruling was. That is, the court doesn't have that right or authority to impose it on IEC that candidate A and B are qualified to contest for election. But all they can do is to look at the petition carefully and see whether or not the rejection of this candidate is genuine in accordance to law, whether IEC were acting on the basics of the law. Because IEC said at least 200 registered voters from the 7 administrative areas. But for CAR Citizen Alliance, their problem was in Banjul, according to IEC. Their rejection on the 200 voter registration nomination form was not in any other administrative area, but was purely on Banjul, which CAR rejected. Now, if the court is ordering CAR to submit fresh list of voters registration to the court, well, that could be a very, very interesting stuff. But then a lot of us here in the Gambia, including the very ones who are from the court, would tell you that, look, we have won our battle already. Because if you go to war with IEC, and the court clearly stated to the IEC that they were acting with their position was not in accordance to law. The decision they have made was wrongly made. It was not a decision they could have done at the first place. Then victory goes back to those people as well. Because remember, initially you were rejected. It means you were not part of those who were eligible to contest. Now you wrote an appeal or a petition sort of to go to the courts, and of course, so that they could sit over issues and of course check things. You know, they have their own law terms. Now again, if IEC, if the court clearly state to IEC that they were not acting in accordance to law, then still that is victory to those presidential aspirants. So this is what warranted a lot of Gambians jubilating, because initially you were cleared out of it. You were not part of it. I can remember there was a time a lot of people had this conviction, belief in them that, look, these people have filed these things at the court. Why don't the IEC call other political parties on campaign to hold on until they hear from the final verdict of the court? But IEC didn't adhere to that. They allowed the campaign to continue.
So what I understood was, hold on, let me mute you. What I understood, Mel, what I understood was they can just go and add more signatures, period. And they did that. That's what I understood. So you have made this whole thing clear. Dabakh, let me go to Dabakh. Dabakh, we see IEC from 2016. During the tallying, they made a mistake. The mistake they just made not long ago with Robertson Malick law to give registration voter cards to people.
Attestation.
Attestation, yes. And attestation, it wasn't voter. Thank you. Attestation, that was a mistake. The chairman election, was it Kerawan? They made a mistake on there too. The mistakes are just too much. Should we, the Gambians, be concerned about this IEC?
No, to tell you the truth, for me, I'm not worried about IEC. I think they are credible people. Majority of the people who work there, I think they are credible and they will do their work wholeheartedly. You know, one thing that people need to understand is there is no perfect system in this world. And as human beings, we are bound to make mistakes. For me, what is more important is the mistake deliberate or an error? Because that's where I am going to say whether I believe in IEC or not. But what happened in 2016, I think Jammeh just had the intention of overturning the elections after accepting defeat, knowing the magnitude of some of the utterances that were made after the victory of the coalition government, especially when the former vice president spoke, to the BBC and said, Jammeh is cornered, we'll meet him in Kanilai, we'll do that. So he, as a defense mechanism, that is the reason why Jammeh said he did not agree. But if you look at when Jammeh was calling Barrow, Jammeh knew exactly what the figures were because he himself said it. Our difference is not much. It's just around 18,000 votes. And that is the final results. So for me, I don't think that was something that was really a matter. I think the guy just wanted to change his mind, knowing fully well what awaits him after handing over power. So he brought in those issues. But I don't think that was just an issue.
So
another thing also people need to understand is IEC has an institution, is an independent body, and that is why they are empowered to make bylaws on their own, because they don't want executive interference or the legislative aspect of branch of government to interfere with what they do. And that is why you see, even when it comes to preparation of their budget, IEC does that and they submit it to the executive, and the executive doesn't make any amendment. They just approve it the way it comes. And that is why when politicians were saying, yeah, the executive is not ready for the diaspora to vote, I think that was fallacious. Because the honor was on IEC to prepare their own budget. It's not the Ministry of Finance who is preparing the budget of the Independent Electoral Commission. So if IEC wanted Gambians in the diaspora to be registered and to vote in this election, they would have put it in their budget. So what they present to the executive, that is what the executive will present to Parliament, and that is what Parliament will approve. So for me, that shows like the independence of the institution. Okay, when I come to the judgment, you see, like Melville said, I said this every time. Gambians don't want to read. So they take face value, whatever is spewed there on social media or whatever anybody says, they take it to be the fact. You understand? The responsibility of approving or qualifying a candidate is the sole responsibility of the Independent Electoral Commission. The Independent Electoral Commission made a mistake, and the mistake that they made was, you see, when candidates, because there is a deadline for nomination, when candidates brought in their nomination papers, they filed in their nomination papers, when they look at these issues and they saw that CA is sought in Banjul, they should have notified CA immediately and asked them to bring in the remaining numbers before the deadline. If CA refused to do that after the deadline, then the sole responsibility will be on CA. But you cannot wait until the nomination time is over. Then you come out and announce that they have the amount of voters nomination papers that they submit for Banjul was sought. I think that was a mistake on the side of IEC, and I hope they learn from it and then they will grow as they go on. But the thing is, like Melville said, if you read through the judgment, the court did not say IEC must allow CA to participate. And I think maybe that could be the reason why CA said in the interest of peace, in the interest of the country, they just wouldn't participate in this election. You understand? Probably they had a conversation with their lawyer and then he explained to them what the judgment really means. Because the judgment is they have to submit that particular form because, you know, the court cannot use any other document that was not tendered in court. You understand? Because what you tender in court, that is what the court would use to make a judgment, a ruling on the matter. Because you cannot say, you cannot present document X and the court made a ruling based on document X and you go back and present document Y. You understand? So maybe that also is a mistake on their side, you know. But like I said, it's a new party. They are trying to grow and they will learn from these things. Mistakes are bound to happen. All of us make mistakes. And they need to accept that, you know, even though IEC made mistakes, but they too also made errors. And together, collectively, if everybody accepts their responsibility, I think we can grow. But what is important is, because the court knows, I've seen people said, why didn't IEC stop other candidates from campaigning? IEC cannot do that. If CA wanted IEC to stop other candidates from campaigning, they should have requested from the court a stay of execution so that whether the court will grant that, and I believe the court was not going to grant it. Because looking at what happened in Yakumba's case, you understand, when they requested for stay of execution for her to be allowed for her to be to stay away while the court proceeding was going on, the court refused that. You understand?
No, but the two are radically different. Okay. The courts don't even have jurisdiction over the IEC to postpone elections, postpone campaigns, and all that stuff. In fact, if you look at the judgment, the what's his name, lawyer Juf, I don't know his first, Joseph Juf, I think, Joseph Juf. He asked the courts for the courts to postpone the elections, and the courts made it clear that they don't have those powers. The courts don't have those powers. In the instance of Yakumba, the court, they could have done that. The courts could have ruled that there is a stay of execution in the swearing in of the particular parliamentarian. The courts chose not to do so, and if you ask me, when I look at that judgment, to be honest, up to date, I don't quite understand it. And I mean, they're more experienced jurists and lawyers and stuff than me. But when I look at it, I don't understand it because I felt that it was very unfair. I felt that a lot of resources went into actually swearing in the guy. He took office when the courts, you know, I don't know why. But maybe, again, the courts were looking at the fact that they didn't want anybody to preempt their final judgment. But I still don't understand that bit. But with respect to the IEC, they just don't have the powers to do that.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's what even I was trying to explain. That the reason why they cannot stop the IEC would not stop the campaign because, you know, people need to understand, you know, there are a lot of logistics that goes into organizing elections. And, you know, when IEC rejected the nomination of Dr. Cisse and other candidates, I knew it was going to be very difficult for IEC to accept them again. Because you know why? Because IEC is working on time, and there are a lot of logistics that are involved in organizing elections. For example, like preparation of the ballot boxes, you know, the marbles, you know, taking this thing across the country, painting them, putting the pictures, the official portrait of candidates. Okay, even whereas CA was going to come into the election, was going to participate in these elections. How would they do it? Because campaign has already started almost 2 weeks ago. Election is next Saturday. You know, how can they go around the country and campaign? That's one. Two, how logistically IEC is ready to make sure they have ballot boxes that contain CA's candidate, and for that to be prepared within 1 week and to be distributed across the country like all other candidates. For me, I thought maybe it was good that they challenged it at the courts, because, like I said, you know, social media is not a fault.
Might just declare that he's gonna run. If I can hear, I think that's what Jay is trying to say. Yeah.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
Let me come in. Let me come in before you move to the bit about my declaration of running. The Constitution is clear, very clear, crystal clear, unambiguous, very clear, ordinary plain language. The only way whereby elections can be postponed is one, if the Gambia is at war. The only other option apart from the Gambia being at war is if the Gambia declares a state of emergency and extends the life of Parliament, which will ordinarily give the extension of the life of the presidency. These are the only instances whereby the elections can be postponed. So all other arguments and all other frills that are out there are just nothing, to be honest.
Mel, say it again. State of emergency. And what else you said about
war? If the Gambia was at war, or they had declared a state of emergency. Because when you declare a state of emergency, it will mean that you are extending the life of Parliament. And when you extend the life of Parliament, by virtue of that extension, you extend the life of the presidency. And this is what Jammeh tried to do in 2016. But again, I disagree with Dabakh on another issue. And that is when he mentioned about the IEC announcing 2 election results. I absolutely believe that the basis of contesting any election result in any jurisdiction in the world is where 2 results have been declared. That is ample grounds and basis for contesting that election. The only difference is the appetite in 2016 was not there, and we all wanted Jammeh to go at some point. But honestly speaking, there was a legal basis for the contesting of that election results. And that is the truth and the fact.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I agree totally with you. But the thing is, you see, Jammeh also abused his power, even though he has the right to contest the results, which I totally agree. But he does not have the right to deliberately deny the incumbent president to be swear and assume office. You understand? If he wanted to follow the right procedure, because that is the reason why, because the Constitution gives the powers to the president to declare a state of emergency, and Jammeh knew that, you know. So the only way he can buy time was to deliberately declare a state of emergency. So which means he also was not following the right channel in channeling his grievances or contesting the results, because he should have handed over the power to Barrow, for Barrow to take over. He goes to the Supreme Court, petition the results. If he wins and the Supreme Court nullifies the results, then elections will be organized again. But you cannot say, because I did not agree, so I am not going to allow this guy. So he also was abusing his power as a president. So for me, with regards to my party, I think my what I can read from my is, especially with what is going on within his party, I think some members of his executive wants him to form a coalition with UDP. Probably for whatever reasons, I don't know. Maybe he does not want to, because May also is a very smart guy. May knows it will be very difficult for him to win these elections. So what he needs to do is, May still wants to be relevant in the political arena. So 2, but also he does not want to, as you said, or go into coalition with NPP probably, or NPP might not necessarily want May.
Okay.
You understand?
Yeah.
So to be on the safer side, it's easier for him to buy time by saying he's gonna contest, but he will go through the court proceedings, knowing fully well before all those procedures are done, and especially the court has already made a ruling, and IEC is challenging, is contesting that, is appealing the judgment. So May knows he cannot be in 2021 election. He will not be on the ballot box because the court does not say IEC must allow him to participate. You understand? So he has to submit whatever was missing, and it's still up to IEC, the returning officer, to accept or not to accept. So, and since the IEC has already made their judgment on that, and that is the reason, based on that, they are appealing the judgment because they did not agree. So I don't see any way that they will accept or endorse May to, they will clear May to participate in 2021. Okay. So May is making a strategic political decision of buying out time, because for me, I don't see how he is going to participate in this election and how is he going to win.
Okay. Mel.
Yeah.
Can you see it on the screen?
My eyes are not good. I can't read it.
Okay. Let me try to. Jaye, can you see that on the screen? On your side?
It's not very clear here too. The PC is not working, and I'm using the phone now. The writings are not very clear on my side.
I will pull it here on the phone. Then
I just read it. I just read it on my phone.
Okay, go ahead.
First and foremost, I don't know who's commenting, but first it's as if the person has not seen. I will read again the specific wordings of the judgment.
Okay.
And what he says is, how can you authoritatively say it's the additional names? It is. Authoritatively, it is the additional names, because the judgment is very clear. Because during the course of the proceedings, CA had tendered additional names as exhibit.
Okay.
And the judgment went on to state, and I read again, it said, it is hereby directed that the applicant be permitted to submit the additional list of names. So yes, it is the list of names. So I am saying that authoritatively, that it is the list of names that the applicant had generated, which was exhibited in court and marked exhibit IC7. And the judgment is saying that the applicant should be permitted to submit the additional list of names and signatures of registered voters for the Banjul administrative area, exhibit IC7, to the returning officer. So the judgment was very specific on what should be sent back to the returning officer.
Okay.
And the question went on to say that, but if candidate meets the requirements, who determines that candidates meet the requirements? Both the Elections Act and both the judgment, both of them are saying that if it satisfies the returning officer. So asking who would determine, the only person, the only institution, the only body mandated by law to determine is the returning officer.
The returning officer.
So except you now want to go and question the very law, to now put a yardstick and measure what is the yardstick, what is there for the returning officer to determine what is constitutionally or what really is the requirement. But the law, as far as the judgment is concerned, and as far as the Elections Act is concerned, is for the returning officer to satisfy himself that they have met with the requirements.
Okay. This is so interesting. Thank you. And
one more to address. I want to address this particular question exhaustively. It says, and what if IEC intentionally refuse? It will be for Dr. Cisse or whoever candidate to go to the court, satisfy the court that they were intentionally refused. Yes. And if in fact, if you look at the basis of the appeal by the IEC is even saying that the court does not have the power to make this judgment, because the Elections Act is very clear on section 49.3, I think, that once an appeal is decided upon, the appeal is final and cannot be questioned and cannot be the subject of any court of law. And we all know the principle of law is that where a statute is clear, is unambiguous, there is no room for interpretation. The only body that is required to make law, mandated to make law, or make laws, is the parliament. And by right, what the appeal is saying is that, for example, if CA had not appealed,
If CA had not appealed, then that particular provisions would not be invoked. But once you appeal, the provision that you have invoked is stating that after the process of appeal, after the determination of an appeal, you cannot then begin to question that decision in a court of law. And this is in plain, simple, unambiguous language. And we all know for a matter of fact that in law, when the language is clear, when the statute is clear, when the statute is unambiguous, it cannot be a subject of interpretation. The law, the courts, and this is what people don't understand in Gambia, the courts are not mandated to make laws. The only body that is stipulated to make laws is Parliament. And that is why it should go to Parliament, and Parliament can amend or repeal that law. And this is the basis of the appeal from the IEC.
Wow, okay. Dabakh, you have something to say?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, and that is why I said it here, like when they appeal and IEC rejected their appeal, I said it on this program. I said, let them just prepare for the parliamentary elections and subsequent elections that are coming up, because I don't see how they're going to come back from this. And yes, I agree, IEC made a mistake. And the mistake that they made was when they should have notified them immediately and give them time like before the deadline of nomination. Yeah. And
no, but Dabakh,
yeah.
IEC did not reject that because it was on that basis that they allowed them to submit a fresh or amended list of nomination. So IEC complied with the judgment.
But how
in this instance,
no. What I mean is, you know, there's a time stipulated for the nomination period. When candidates submit their nomination, you know, what IEC needs to do is to verify what they submit immediately before even the candidate leaves the IEC premises. And some of the things that are incomplete, you notify them and say, document X, Y, Z is incomplete, but the deadline for nomination is within 24 hours or within 2 days. So make sure you try and submit them before the end of nominations. But I think that could have helped CA. But like I said, IEC, Parliament, you know, you see, IEC is an independent organized institution. And the reason why they make it, even though they are part of government, but it's more of like an independent institution because they organize elections. You know, if you all remember, before 1996, elections were organized by the Ministry of Local Government, who was an executive member of government and a minister. And ministerial positions are political. But also, during the First Republic, ministers were also parliamentarians, and they belong to political parties. So to avoid, you know, the person, the competitor, the participant becomes the referee. That is what brought in the creation of the Independent Electoral Commission. So that is why, you know, we also, in as much as we want everything to go to the courts, but also I think we should try to avoid courts to make judgments that will interfere with the independence of the Independent Electoral Commissions.
Oh yeah, okay. Jay, you said something about May because we're talking about CA and May is in the same boat. If I'm not getting it wrong, I stand to be corrected.
Yeah, indeed. I would come to May because May clearly indicates that he is going to contest for these elections. And if you look at what he wrote, and his belief at the moment is that he's going to contest for the election and that he have won the battle against IEC.
Jay, can I ask a question?
Jay.
That's what
he
said.
Can I ask a question? Ajay, can I ask a question?
Okay.
Go ahead.
If I go on my Facebook page and I do a live video now and I tell you that Michael Jackson is my father, what would you do?
Indeed, I would not have to believe that. Because
the fact remains, undisputed fact remains, that he would never in a million years be on that ballot box.
He will never win elections. Okay, I was coming to that.
But he has a right. He has a right to say that he will run for president. Nobody can take that right away from him. He's exercising his freedom of speech.
Exactly. But if you look at things in the other way around, May was part of those who challenge the IEC. May is part of those who challenge the IEC. And of course, from the IEC, I am sure I didn't dispute all what you said. All what you said is true. IEC doesn't have any right to pronounce any
But
winner.
hold on, let me ask Mel a question. Mel, if GMC did the right thing, fill out the form, whatever the form that they're supposed to bring, that maybe IEC did not bring, still they cannot be on the ballot box.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, they can only be on the ballot box if they've been cleared by the returning officer that they have satisfied the requirements. This is the law. This is the position of the law as upheld by the judgment of the High Court, the very judgment that he is relying on.
Okay, there's this video. Jaye, hold on, let me play this because I think we're in the same topic. Y'all, hold on, let me play this. This is what Dr. C said. Serious allegation, and let's talk about this really quick. Let me play it for viewers to hear. Just a second. Mel, hold on.
One man runs the institution as we speak, and that is Sambojang Jaye. He decides what happens. He decides who will run and who will not run. An institution like IEC cannot be run by one man like it's a dictatorship. The chairman of the IEC is weak. He's not in charge of that institution. It is Sambojang Jaye who controls. And we are privy to credible information. The stakeholders had asked them to allow and follow due process. And in fact, they'll give extra support to make sure due process is followed. But Sambojang is saying no. And he must ensure that Citizens Alliance is not on the ballot box. This is spitefulness. This is vindictiveness. And we will not accept it. Sambojang needs to be restrained, or he will single-handedly jeopardize the peace of this country. In fact, and I say this with confidence, and I'm going to repeat this, I want everybody to listen to this. We have credible information and evidence that Sambojang Jaye has leanings to a particular political party in this country. And we are going to reveal that evidence when the time comes. We are doing this for country because we love our country. We don't want the country to burn. That is why we are doing this. That Sambojang Jaye has leanings to a particular political party that he's conspiring with to ensure we don't contest the 2021 presidential elections. And we have evidence of that.
Okay. Mel, I played this because there's so much allegations on there. He didn't mention the political party's name, but Sambojang is, I'm not even sure what position Sambojang held in the, I think they said CEO or Chief Electoral Officer. Maybe he's the one we've been talking about. So serious allegations like that at the IEC, what do you think IEC should do when it comes to the law about Sambojang?
Okay, the first thing I want to do is my particular brother who's watching, and he's a staunch supporter of CA, and he thinks I'm calling out, I'm pointing fingers at CA, and I just want him to know I have defended Dr. Cisse in the past. I will continue to do so, but when it comes to issues of facts and the law, I cannot say anything that is a lie. I'm speaking what is factual before me, what is the law, analyzing the judgment and what I know. And when it comes to the issue, because he said to me that, he said on the message that the IEC was wrong and it was deliberate. Pointing fingers at CA is totally uncalled for. Why would the IEC reject CA or other parties in the first place, knowing very well that it was wrong to do that? I have already established that the courts feel that IEC was wrong. And I said that I agree with the position of the courts that IEC was wrong. They shouldn't have done that. Whether it was deliberate, that's not my place to say. I don't know, and I cannot lie. I don't know whether it was deliberate. But what I do know is it shouldn't have happened. The courts have held that they were wrong, and of course that the courts held that the CA should be allowed to submit the particular form, and which they did. So whether they did that deliberately, I don't know.
Before you move on, I also want to give an answer to that. Binto Media Network, we do not point a finger at people personally. We do not point a finger to something that has nothing to do with the nation. CA at this moment is the one that we have to discuss about, and GMC, because these electoral laws have to be discussed either now or 2026. So, but at this moment, we have to discuss about those. That's why we bring the topic. It's not about somebody pointing at a finger at a particular party. So it could be any other party. We would have mentioned them. So go ahead. Yes.
Okay. With respect to the allegations, they are very, very serious allegations that have been brought forth by Dr. Cisse. However, one thing is very clear. Working for a particular institution does not mean that your fundamental right is being taken away from you. So every single member of the IEC will go and cast their ballots, won't they? Is there any law that's preventing them to vote for a particular party or a particular candidate? I'm just asking. I'm not aware. So, Dabakh, Jaye, are you aware of any law that prevents members or officials of the IEC by virtue of their job, their work, not to vote?
No.
Will judges, even the judge that ruled in this matter, would she not vote? Would she not exercise her civic right to vote? Everybody will vote. Every Gambian will vote. So the question about a particular official having leaning towards a political party, really and honestly, does not hold water, because they all have leanings to a particular party. Every single individual in the Gambia has a leaning towards a political party. Now, what is of importance is if that leaning is made known publicly, or that leaning goes to a point that it will cause them not to be able to deliver fairly on their mandate. If that is the case, it is for Dr. Cisse to accompany the allegations with the evidence that he claims to have, but will only divulge it at a particular point in time. I think for me, I personally feel that's a non-starter. If you make such serious allegations on a public forum of that nature, you should be ready and able and willing to tender and accompany the allegation with the substantive evidence that you have. If you feel that you are going to keep the evidence, in my view, I would say that don't come with the allegations. It is his right to speak. He exercised his right to do whatever it is that he did. But I personally don't feel it is the right thing to do. Now, when it comes to the IEC chairman, to call him weak openly, to call him other names, I don't think that's right. I don't agree. We saw you live in America, Binto. You saw Justice Greenberg. What's his name? What's his first name? What's her first name? She just died. She was 90 years old and a Supreme Court judge.
The lady?
Yeah.
The older lady.
One of the most respected judges in the Supreme Court. I think Rose Greenberg or something. I can't remember.
Greenberg. Yeah. The older lady. Yeah.
So age does not determine capacity. And one thing we have to know is that 4 years down the line, the same 80-something-year-old man was the person that Gambians celebrated. It was the same person that Gambians trusted to deliver. How many young individuals in Gambia would not have buckled down under the pressure that came out in 2016? So yes, it is very okay to now say that this man is weak. But what is before me, the evidence is before me, what has transpired, the legacy that he has left does not demonstrate to me that he is weak.
Okay.
So it is for Dr. Cisse, who is now calling him weak, to adduce the evidences to show that indeed he is weak. As far as I am concerned, and as far as what has been presented to the public, he is not a weak man. His legacy is not that of a weak man. And for me, it begs the question, if you are insisting and going to court to be part of a process that the head of that institution you have now publicly declared weak. What then is the basis of you contesting that process to be part of that institution that you feel that that institution is being run by a weak person and that institution does not matter? For me, it is very ironical. Okay. It's ironical that you're going to court, you're taking the legal route to be part of a particular process. The process, the referee in that process, you have already determined publicly that that individual is weak. What then is the basis of you wanting to be part of a process that will be refereed? It will be chaired by a person you have already declared weak. It is very easy when people are in a spot or in instances. I absolutely believe that what happened to him is unfair. It is unfair. The courts have deemed it so to be unfair. But one man does not make up an institution.
Okay.
One individual in that entire institution cannot determine the process.
Okay. Thank you. With all these mistakes we are talking about IEC, Mel, I'm coming back to you again. Did our constitution contain any penalties or regulations, measures in case of mistakes that IEC will do or did?
Well, I think the mistake was there was a remedy for the mistake. I think the judgment awarded legal fees or something. I think there was no award of cost. I think in the judgment, but I think 200,000 legal fees was awarded.
Okay.
You know, it was awarded. So, but as per the law, I don't know. I'm not aware of any penalty that they would face. For example, in the instance of what they did, I don't want to say what they did to Dr. Cisse, because saying what they did, I am actually assuming that it is right, that it was deliberate. And I don't think, except I see reason, I see justification for why I feel that it was deliberate. I don't think it was deliberate. You see, the Elections Act. Let me see if I can read it for you. The Elections Act states, I think it's 42. It says a person shall, yeah? And in law, when you say shall, it's mandatory. It says a person shall not subscribe to more than one nomination paper in respect of an office for which elections are to be held. Okay, and it further, the preceding provision says, where a person subscribes to more than one nomination paper, contrary to subsection 5, his or her subscription shall only be effective in the case of the one which is first delivered. Okay.
Okay.
Now, this is the issue that Dr. Cisse has, which I believe is tangible reasons. Because you said to me that once you have more than one, like a signature, signing and endorsing more than one individual, then the person that submits first, that's the person that signature will be valid for. But then what Dr. Cisse is saying, and the argument from Dr. Cisse is, IEC is the one that determines who comes first with respect to issues of nomination.
But that's not fair either. They should put dates on it. That's not fair.
That's not fair. Absolutely not fair. And this is, for me, this is the issue. But what is interesting is that the preceding provision before that has already made it illegal for an individual to endorse more than one candidate. So what this does is it shifts the buck to the political party, or be the independent candidate, to make sure that they do their homework right, to ensure that when they are getting endorsement by way of signatures, it is very, very, should I say, what's the right word to say, but party militants that owe undiluted allegiance to them.
They need to give them they need to give them an electronic where when they put these numbers, whatever it is. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, Binto, you know the problem is some of these political parties also created this for themselves. Some of them, they don't go to people who support them, but they pay.
To support them, yes. They just
They
go
pay.
out
They pay.
and
They
try
pay
to
money.
get the
They
nominations
buy
and try
nominations.
to get them endorsed.
You know,
So
they
that
buy
is what is
endorsements.
wrong. Because, for example, Binjo, why didn't we see this issue with PDOIS? Because PDOIS will ensure that a person that signs and endorses PDOIS will not endorse any other candidate.
But how would they know? I was just thinking that they know the deal and they went and collected whatever they need to collect and extra more. But I think that
but you're missing the point. The point is the Electoral Act already declares that signing for more than one person is you shall not. It's illegal.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
So two things are at play. One, there is lack of proper civic awareness, so people don't know the provisions, don't understand the laws. And two, the responsibility is on the political party or the independent candidate that goes out to get the endorsement. It is you see, Binto, if I'm coming to you now and I want you to do an attestation for a particular, let's say, I am told that I need an American citizen to sign for me to be able to buy a property. The responsibility is on me to ensure that you are an American citizen before I get you to append your signature endorsing me or attesting to the fact that I want to get a property.
Yes.
That responsibility lies with me.
Okay.
And I believe the responsibility of every political party and every independent candidate to ensure that whoever is signing for you is signing for you and you alone.
Okay.
And that is why it is not anybody that can endorse you. They have to be registered voters. They have to have a valid registered voters card. So like Dava said, getting people to endorse you should not be an act or an action you take right before elections.
Yes.
It is a process. Your most trusted aides, your most trusted party militants are the people that you would get to endorse you, because then you are satisfying yourself that they are not endorsing any other candidate. And I'm sure if you talk to CA properly, when they presented the amended list, I'm sure those individuals, they made sure they satisfied themselves that they had not endorsed any other candidate.
Gambians, I don't trust them. Right, Dama? You really have to go. Mel, Gambians are so... Jaye, I'll mute you because there's a little bit noise coming from your background. That's why I keep muting you. Go ahead, Jaye. Before Jaye, go ahead.
Thank you so much. I just want to elaborate on 2 points that we had. First of all, the first one was with regards to the diaspora voting, because it has a lot of, I am in the Gambia, I stay here, a lot of noise. Some blame the government, some blame the finance minister, because he came out, to tell Gambians that there is no phone available. And that was the point he elaborated on. And it was a very sensitive point. Even in one way or the other, I of course wrote it, and there was a day I had a program on it on the radio, that people should understand the budget of IEC. IEC will have to preside over a budget to the government or to the Minister of Finance. All right, that is not the responsibility of the government, neither the finance minister, to tell IEC who is to be eligible to vote or not. They act based on what is given to them, on what the IEC required to them. So, in actual sense, Gambians, as he mentioned, a lot of us hardly go in detail on issues. You see things happen in the social media.
That's why you have to come here every week. That's why you have
to. The moment you see them said in WhatsApp groups, you just also go further to say it to another group. Because if IEC indicate diaspora in their budget, and of course explain that to detail to the Minister of Finance, and of course the government will have to act on that because they are Gambians. They are Gambians like any other person.
Yeah, for that one, we had a conversation about that. We had a panel here. It was a very interesting debate about diasporans voting. Some mentioned the laws. You cannot just throw this thing. It's not about the finances alone, but the laws they should put in place, right? Right, yes. The laws are more,
Yeah, because I think the problem is.
Hold on. Go ahead.
I was speaking. I am sure we have a law expert here, so I wouldn't treat that aspect. I was talking about the financial aspect.
Oh, okay.
Yes, the law have to satisfy you and other stuff. We have our two great gentlemen here that will deal with it. But in terms of finance, I mean too. In terms of the financial aspect, IEC have a bigger say because they are the one who design that budget. And they know who and what are some of the things that they have to involve or indicate in that budget.
Okay.
And of course, decides it over to the finance minister. But if you come to law, we have experts in that area. I'm not sure.
Guess what? This is what we will do. After the elections, you see, Mel, we will bring all of them back. Let's look at this electoral act. And we have to talk about it. We have to advocate some stuff that needs to be out of the window. Let me ask Mel last question before we move on to something else because Mel don't do politics really. So, Mel, what would you recommend regarding to what should be adjusted or removed from our electoral laws?
Oh wow, a lot of things. Like for example, we have raised so many issues here. A lot of things has to be amended and or removed. A lot. For example, we've agreed that the requirements have to be a little bit more more stringent. We've agreed that the laws, for example, the bit about saying that a particular candidate cannot benefit from endorsement, if they don't come first, where it is the IEC who determines who comes first, who presents the papers. That law doesn't really make sense, to be honest. You understand? Okay. Because if you're determining who comes first, how can you then say that you would accept the person that comes first was the one? That's not fair. So that would have to be, things like that. The bit about dual citizenship is something that I think has to stay. I absolutely believe in that.
Okay.
So there's so many things, and there's so many other things. There's room for a lot of improvement, and I believe they have done that. I believe it didn't pass, but I think they've already drafted a revised elections act or something. I don't know how they call it, but it didn't come into force. But so I think whoever wins the next election, I'm sure they would. But again, like Daba said, you see, some of these laws are very difficult and hard now. But once they take office, they start to see the beauty of the laws because it works to their advantage. And then the laws would be there. They wouldn't change. Who would have thought in their right mind that we would be going into another election 5 years on with the same 1997 constitution? Who would have thought that?
Not me.
People are now fighting for the 1997 constitution. The constitution that they said was the worst constitution on planet Earth. People are ready to die for it.
And it will not change. It will not change. I promise.
It's radically different when you're out of office, when you see things from outside, and then when you get in and you see things from an inward perspective. Everything starts to change, and you begin to see that, hey, you know what, this particular law that I thought was very bad when I was outside is actually a very good law. So, like I said, we don't know what's going to happen. Let's see. It depends on whoever wins the next election. It depends on what is good for them, and if there's political will, then we'll see something else. Like I always say, and Dabakh said it, the 1997 constitution there's nothing like Jammeh law.
There's nothing like somebody's law. It's the Gambian constitution voted into by Gambians in a general referendum. It has benefited Gambians. It's gone through amendments endorsed by parliamentarians who are representative of the people. We are in a representative democracy, a parliamentary democracy. They represented the people. Their actions were endorsed by the people who put them into that office. So really, it is our constitution, the 1997 constitution, the one that is going to usher us into the next.
I'm going to open the line. Mel is sitting here. If you have any question, please call. The number is right here in the bottom of your screen. +1 678 390 0539.
Yeah, I just wanted to contribute to the allegations with regards to some.
Oh, yeah. Hold on. Let me give them the number, then you continue. Then Jaye will give, then we have the callers in. Just a second. Yes, if you want to call, you have a question or a statement, please. Hey, here is discipline. Discipline, I do not take that for granted. So please call. Mel is here, Dabakh is here, Jaye is here. We all are here for you. Today is our last Saturday. The next Saturday is election. We'll be streaming all night long. Inshallah. The number is +1. Let me text it on the side. Please, you can call. Okay, Dabakh, go ahead.
Yeah. First, I want to begin with the IEC chairman. I think I definitely did not agree with the statement used by Dr. Sise, even whereas I know he's frustrated. He might be angry because of the circumstances that preceded all these things. But I think the guy is a strong character. You know, I'm not saying this because I don't even know him personally, but what he went through, no, the chairman himself.
Oh, the chairman, okay.
Yeah, what he went through in 2016. We have seen the General Commission, we have seen the TRRC, we have seen younger people than him who bought into Jammeh's demand and did what Jammeh wanted them to do. We have seen the National Assembly, who are parliamentarians, they bought into Jammeh in 2016 when he declared that state of emergency. We've seen cabinet ministers who are way younger than him, who stood with Jammeh during the impasse and defended everything Jammeh was doing or saying, knowing fully well legally Jammeh has no basis or powers to do that. So I think I could remember during the impasse, because all through the impasse I was in Gambia, I did not go out. You know, I can remember he gave an interview that even if they burned the IEC building, the results would not change. And when he was saying that, he said that in Gambia and Jammeh was around. Some of us who were in the Gambia and we went around IEC, there were trucks loaded with military personnel who were there. Yet still the guy stood his ground. During the nomination before the elections, when the registration of voters, the date for registration passed, we can all remember there was this military truck that went to IEC with soldiers and were demanding that they be registered. The guy stood his ground and refused them registration. So I don't think any weak leader would do that, knowing the circumstances that preceded the Jammeh's government and the kind of tyranny and the kind of disregard for the law and the vicious nature of Jammeh. For somebody to stand and tell him, no, I'm not going to do this, I think that guy is very, very, very courageous. So for me, I think, you know, we may have our disagreements, but I think we should give due to everybody and we should give respect and acknowledge the good deeds of people. Even though he's a human being, he's bound to make mistakes, like all of us, you know, because there is no perfect person among us. We all make mistakes, but that does not mean, for like Melvin said, for me to believe it was deliberate, CA needs to bring more evidence to prove that. You know, I may not agree, like he said, all those people within IEC, I believe they will go out there and vote. And as a Gambian, if you are going out there to vote, you have a particular candidate that you want to win. Whether the person belongs to a political party or is an independent candidate is all through a different matter. In the process of doing their job, what is important is their allegiance to a political party or to a particular candidate should not deter them from doing what they are supposed to do.
Yes.
You understand? I know, like IEC, they are Gambians, they are human beings, they make mistakes, certain things happen. It may be deliberate, it may not be deliberate. Just to give you a clear case example, in the last mayoral election, we contested on an independent ticket. And it may be coincidence, like that is what the excuse IEC gave us, because when that thing happened, we didn't run to the media and levy allegations against them. We confronted them, and I particularly confronted Sambujang himself, because the ballot boxes of our candidate that we are taking to Ibo town, the holes were so small that the marble was not going through. And none of the people who went out there to vote, they cannot put the marble inside the box. So some of them were putting it down, or they were coming out to make that complaint to us. So what we did was to drive to IEC and confront them and make sure they come on the ground and, you know, corrected that mistake, you know, because like I said, election is a process, and we have seen a whole lot of conflicts that emanated in Africa came through elections or post-elections. And in as much as we may be frustrated, we may be angry, Dr. Caesar is no more a lecturer at the University of the Gambia. He's a leader. Whether we agree with him or we disagree with him, he's assuming to govern to occupy the highest position on the land. So leadership comes with responsibilities, because there are certain utterances when you make them in public without bringing, where I disagree with him is, it's his right if he has evidence that IEC deliberately did this, or Sambujang is affiliated to a political party, or is leaning towards a political party. One, if I was him, I would publicly declare the political party. If I was him, I would publicly that very day come out with the evidence and put it out there. Because once you make allegations and you don't substantiate the allegations, what it does is, like, it brings confusion and it brings in distrust in the minds of the people, but also other political parties. And I think the onus is upon him to come out and put the evidence out there in public for Gambians to see. If he doesn't have that, I think it's upon him to come out and apologize to IEC. Because to make such a grave allegation, because this is not a small thing. This is a huge allegation that he made. And Dr. Cisse is not me, is not any other supporter, is not a voter. This is a guy who heads a political party, but also was to contest for the highest office. So whatever he says carries a huge weight.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah, we may disagree with him, but I think it's his right.
I think he panicked on the people yesterday when he did that. Everybody is like, which party is this guy affiliated with? I think he should step down. It just put that panic on everybody's head. Like, okay, is Dr. Caesar saying this? So this guy needs to step down. Yes.
I think he needs to come out and say the political party, that's one, but also he should not stop there. He should come out and bring out the evidence, because if the evidence is really substantiated, I think it's upon Sambujang to excuse himself from the electoral process. But not only that, but IEC should institute an independent committee to investigate the matter. And if he is found wanting, one, he needs to be fired, but two, also he needs to be prosecuted for that. Because the people who work for IEC must be independent, and they must execute their functions without fear or favor, and without, because IEC cannot make any other mistake in this 2021 elections. Trust me.
We cannot afford.
They cannot make any mistake, and they cannot bring doubts in the minds of people when the results are declared 5th of December.
And that's why they don't need to rush. There is nobody who's holding a stick behind them. They need to take their time, make sure that when they announce the results, it is something that is final, and it reflects the actual numbers and figures and the reality on the ground. There is no need to rush to want to please anyone by making errors. But again, also, Daba, there's one thing that people can look at things from different perspectives. And I think for us as Gambians and what we see that is prevailing in our society, I think it was very honorable, even though
like I've already said, that is the basis of questioning the elections results and appealing and whatever it is. But I think it was very honorable for an individual to come out to want to correct a mistake. If any other person would have just said, let's keep quiet, let's forget it. You understand? But coming out to show, it demonstrates some sort of integrity. It demonstrates some sort of honesty. I'm sure he knew the backlash that would follow once he did that. But the fact remains that I think he wanted to be honest, to be sincere, and I think that is also a good thing. It is a good virtue that we should also celebrate. It caused a bit of concern, but it demonstrates some sort of integrity. That is my view.
Yeah, doctor tend to change a lot of things in the politics now.
No, I was not referring to doctor. I was referring to the IEC chairman.
Oh yeah, okay. Sorry about that. Yes. Okay. Jaye, let's wrap up because time is just I didn't even see the time. I was just enjoying
2 hours.
Yes, no. Okay, Jaye, wrap up. Wrap up the rally. What is going on? Update us real quick.
Well, thank you so much, Binta. Right now, one could say the only political party that is yet to come back to Combo, of course, in the Greater Banjul area is Doi Halifa Sallah, Honorable Halifa Sallah, the party leader of course, PDOIS. Yesterday, Honorable Mama Kande came back. Of course, NUP, National Unity Party, are back. In 2 days back, United Democratic Party also as well. President Adam Barrow was the first to come back, then followed by Esam Fall. Right now, it's just getting interesting day in, day out. And of course, they have now, a lot of them have conquered the provincial Gambia. They are now in Combo, and the West Coast is the powerhouse in Gambian election because only in West Coast you have more than 300,000 votes. So that alone, signifies a lot into Gambian elections. Now, here is stands any of these candidates, either of them, all the 6, they all had the crowd because the Gambia now is crowd competition. You look at our crowd, we have to look at your crowd. But sometimes crowd doesn't matter to some people. If you speak to other people, they will tell you, look, PDOIS per se, if you talk to them, they will tell you we are not interested in, we need the votes, but we are not into any crowd competition with anybody. What we need is to go and educate them, meet them in their own various places and talk to them as well. So right now, that is what is going on. And the key message here right now to all the politicians, each and every one of them is optimistic of winning. In fact, we are wrapping up. This is why I wanted to come a little on the issue of IEC. The Independent Electoral Commission, the independent there, if you underline it, it means a lot to Gambians, it means a lot to the world, that you need to be neutral, you need to be very fair enough. And we have seen what the man did in 2016 was something that we need to commend him for. It was a very difficult decision to come out and, of course, pronounce Barrow as the winner in the presence of Jammeh. We all knew how he was. But still, I am urging the IEC to still continue. And, of course, because this issue of taking IEC to court, winning IEC, we have seen the issue of Mayor Malick Law going to court with IEC. Of course, IEC were the very people who gave her that, of course, go ahead to do certain things, to give our attestations to people.
Attestations.
So all these things, we are not saying the man is not good. We are not saying he's honest. He's someone who did a lot for the Gambian people, either we like it or not. That's just the fact. But in this election, I am not sure there is any other more tense election than this one. Because in this election, each and every one of these candidates, out of the whole 6, each and every one of these candidates is hopeful and optimistic of winning this election. And right now, any single mistake, either arithmetic mistake or any figures or any kind of a mistake, it is going to cause a lot of problems in the country right now. So that's the aspect that Gambians are speaking from. The IEC chairman, everyone knew what he did in the Gambia. Honestly speaking, he did a very good job here in the Gambia. But then let them avoid whatever they are doing. I think Mr. Robert said so. Whatever they are doing, let them take their time. They are not competing with anybody. In fact, if they want, let them go on pronouncing results of various administrative areas for 2 days. Gambians will still get the patient. Look, you delay the Gambians' time in pronouncing the results is far more better than giving the result within 2-3 hours. You are done with it, or within the night, and you get a mistake. Any mistake, because right now, what doctor? This is a big allegation, you know. Right now, we treat it as allegation, but there are platforms that doesn't treat it as allegation. They keep on forwarding these things. And of course, in forwarding that, when you look at the video, it is both video and audio. If you look at it, you see, look, some will categorically come and say, look, it's party A. Some will come and say, look, it's party B. It's a big allegation. Now, if this allegation happens a week before election, and IEC happen to pronounce 2 results or something dubious happen within this time, a lot of people will be discouraged in regards to the IEC. I am sure I learn a lot, honestly speaking, from this great gentleman, and I am always open to learn. And I'll be more than happy to share so many platforms with them. They got expertise, content knowledge in what they are doing, and they, of course, understood their area. This is why I was all along calm, listening to what they were saying. I thank them very much, and of course, thank you, my boss, as well, for the great job. You have seen somebody wrote something that I was reading. They said your online media is the most credible ever the person have ever seen. I don't know whether you have seen that message. That is because the ones analyzing, they are analyzing it based on the fact. The one analyzing on law is he has experience and expertise in that area. Dabakh Malick is somebody who knew a lot in Gambian politics. He got that content knowledge in what he is delivering. And you as the host, look, my dear, you're doing a great job.
We love you, bro. We love you.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, thank you. But hold on. Mel, before I let you go, there's this one question it was in my head. Debate. Did you watch the debate?
No, the final one. No, I didn't watch the debate because.
Oh man, I wanted to hear. What do you think?
I lost my friend who died. My friend died, so I was so busy with that I didn't watch the debate.
Sorry.
I have to go and watch it though because a lot of people keep talking about it.
Because
I saw little bits about the Nokia 3310 and the iPhone 13. I saw a video about the briefcase lawyer. Those things I saw, but I didn't watch the entire debate.
He called Halima Salah a Nokia 3310.
And Halifa called him a briefcase lawyer or something.
What about the recent polls?
The recent polls, yes.
Well, for those polls, I don't know. I don't know how credible they are, and I don't know
it's just
who are these people and what kind of polls they've been running in the past, and what I don't know. I've seen different polls. Like when I see the UDP polls, it's always Lawyer Dabo leading. You see NPP polls, it's always NPP leading. You see, I don't know.
Oh my God! Thank you. She said this is the only media I follow from start to end. I'm telling you, not the sister here, the Alcala woman don't have, but people like these brothers here. Yes, Mel, we will reach out again if we have
Thank you so much.
any legal question next weekend. We're gonna grab you. We'll
Thank you so much.
Yes, we appreciate. Oh,
thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you, Daba.
All right, thanks, man. All right, thank you so much.
All right, bye.
Bye. Okay. Wow, Daba.
Yeah.
Daba, I have to let you go because we're gonna be here all day. All night to Saturday because we don't know how the Yes, I'm grateful again. I'm grateful. I'm sorry to the callers. We spend more than what I was expected. This law thing. But I I'm so grateful.
But I think also this is a lesson that political parties need to have their own lawyers who advises them on what needs to be done. And this is why I said, especially those in the opposition, they need to start creating a shadow government. Because once you have a shadow government and you have your cabinet instituted, every issue will be dealt by the particular ministry that it concerns. Because all of us cannot be experts in everything. And that's where the confusion comes in Gambia. Because
hold on. You mean shadow government like every political party?
Yeah, because an opposition party is more of like a government in waiting.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
So when you have a shadow government, instead of the leader coming out to speak on every issue, because the leader cannot be an expert on every matter.
Right.
It's not even possible.
Right.
You know, because we all have our areas of specialization.
Mm-hmm.
We may have our experiences on certain issues, but when it comes to, for example, I'm not a lawyer. You know, I may say my opinion, but I cannot just interpret the law because I'm not a lawyer.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
So if you have a shadow cabinet, then it also stops the leader from talking on every issue.
Okay.
You understand? It also stops the PRO, the spokesperson of the party, to be talking on every issue. Because when you have a shadow government and you have a minister of education, when it comes to the educational policies of your party or matters that arise in terms of education, the education sector, what the current government is doing, it's the minister of education in the shadow government who can come out and talk about the issues and the policies that your party has, because it also helps. But if you have the spokesperson who speaks on behalf of the party on every matter, where he or she is not an expert, he might mistakenly say something that may not be factual or that may not be correct, because he or she is a human being and he might not be he might not be an expert in that particular area. And because he or she holds a very important position within the party, they cannot give their personal views. When they speak on behalf of the party. So whether it's a party policy or not, it wouldn't matter. So before you come back to clear that doubts, we will have already gone viral, especially with the advent of technology and the internet. Information spreads.
I think that's the problem we have. The party is one person. One person. The spokesperson. He's the party leader. He's the secretary general. He is the company. He's everything. You know.
Exactly.
So I think that would be a good thing. But I'll see you on Saturday. We will be streaming here. You never know. We have so many surprises in stock for you. Join us. Even the connection is not good. We will have somebody. We will have Jaye Jallow down at the IEC house, and he will report to us. So come here. We will have a panel. I will be here with Dabakh. He will be my co-host. Jaye will be on the ground, and we will have a lot of panelists here that will talk. When they get tired, they will run. Some other people will come. So we will analyze a whole lot of things. Election night next Saturday. Don't miss Binto Media Network. Yeah, that will be the place to be. Okay? All right, brother. All right.
Thank you so much. All
right, thanks. You have to be here next week. Yes. Next Saturday. Could you believe it? It's already on Saturday? Wow. It's here. Let's go vote. Vote, go home. Alkarte fai, alieta swokon. Alieta swokono, aliesi ale results batuje. Ni winter, kana mo tonye. Ni bela celebration ole ite lusta, kane tonye. We need to maintain peace. Walatina, I'm playing. Let me play it again. I am playing Sadauda. That's why I'm playing Sadauda's song, because Sadauda, I independent or dinale, I independent or din tollale, na independent or sort of peacefully. Ni aninna alifa dolo. Aninna alifa li jointe nyimbanko dinna. Tolla jamani la bandindi ngolta. Alanga make sure na kebal mini tata. Mini do ko ke dolbe baluring. Yamin karafanna. Min keta kairot. I maintain. We maintain that peace. It's our responsibility. Ndingol kana we shouldn't be part of a generation that our children, our grandchildren will help us responsible destroying their country. We cannot afford that. So alngatanga karte fa ngata suo kono nga durambal tabin findol ni everything nga odomo nga ataya li jonki nimmi winita nga mbulo tili mansa talala nga tentu nga mari join nga nabanko doku minima win no problem yesim nga sima ya duwe 2026 is nana nindirole mo kiline be win. So Sama, tomorrow I will be here again. Guess who? I have a special guest tomorrow, and later on the panel will show up. So the discussion is open. Do not miss it tomorrow. We will be having Jaha. Yes, Mrs. Jaha Dukure Mane, PDOIS, a woman of substance. Y'all come on. Yes. Brother Mel, thank you. Dabakh, Jaye, Allah Baraka. Love everybody. Christian, woman name. Kasumay, awala may malon ang anjing jugale na gele politik la. Awala may malon le. Kodi, I love you sis. Alo, sa kalonia go fuli ka hanyi di politics. Kakade telam ba? Kakade lamba. Ufuja wen kana mungu kagade. Yeah, Christina Baraka, thank you. Yeah. Mane, Seko, Allah Baraka. I will see you next Saturday. Do not miss. Alakana difficulties sort of about internet connection, you complain, just come here. Any connection or we didn't get the connection right, but there will be somebody on the ground who will report directly. Yes. Allah Baraka. Thank you. We all sat down that Cairo. Peace. Yes. It's our responsibility. See y'all tomorrow. It's gonna be a big day tomorrow. Yeah. Allah baraka, Allah baraka, Allah baraka. Christian, yes. Thank you all very much. Tomorrow, if you're on Facebook, follow us, subscribe us, share our information. It's not about the political party that you support or don't support. It's about the information. Yes. I have to play this. La baraka. Alamam dunna kono sama ngaba kono kaira kono. Thank you. Oh, Aisha. My daughter was watching. Thank you, Aisha Baji. Thank you, baby Aisha. Love you. We'll be here tomorrow. And next Saturday, please make your barbecue and bring it to me. Give me some findi, some damada, because I'll be here all day long. Yes. Thank y'all. Love y'all.